Hi, welcome everybody. Thank you so much for showing up for this TalkSat to hear Dr. Ali Mattu. My name is Jessica DeVento-Zubin, and I lead mental health here at YouTube. And it is my pleasure to introduce Dr. Mattu, licensed clinical psychologist, expert in anxiety, has worked at some of the top hospitals in New York State. And however, he got frustrated with the systems that he worked in over the years and the clinical work he was doing about making sure that mental health information was accessible to the general public. And so he's pivoted his career to focus on really high quality psychoeducation content for the masses as a scalable approach to really help support the mental health of lots of folks. He also believes that social support and our ability to turn towards friends, loved ones, family for support is crucial and is an essential skill to help us navigate the existing global mental health crisis. At a time when many are feeling isolated and anxious about the future, he shows us how to help each other overcome the challenges we face. So please help me welcome Dr. Mattu as he talks about facing anxiety everyday courage in the face of anxiety, excuse me.
Thank you, Jessica. So I want to start with a few questions to get a sense of where we're all at today. You can think about this to yourself. You don't have to write it down. You don't have to share your results or anything. But I want you to think about the last week. And I want you to think about how often you've been feeling nervous, anxious, or on edge. And give it a rating. 0, not at all. 3, nearly every day. So think about the last week. How much have you been feeling anxious? 0, 1, 2, 3. All right. Now let's think about another aspect of anxiety, worries. Think about the last week. Same question, similar question. 0 to 3, how much have you been struggling to stop or control your worries? 0, not at all. 3, every day I can't stop worrying. Now, if we add up those two numbers, if you're 3 or above, you might be struggling with anxiety. And this question is pretty predictive of a lot of different forms of anxiety. And if you're like any of the people that I've been working with at any of the places that I've been speaking at, or any of the people I connect with on YouTube, you've been struggling with all of the ways in which our lives have changed over the last few years, in the ways that our work has changed over the last few years, and with all the uncertainty coming our way, not only with our homes and our families, but also our work and the larger world and everything that's happening. I heard this from someone I spoke with a few weeks ago now. I think it really fits in with how a lot of people are feeling right now. Economic uncertainty is always on my mind. I'm doing my best to perform, but I'm afraid of falling short. I don't have enough time to get through everything. As a hybrid employee, I wonder if I'm getting enough face time with my team. When I'm home, I want to go to the gym, but I usually don't because I feel like I don't have the time. Yeah, that hit me right here. That's a lot of what I've been feeling too. There's a lot of uncertainty there, a lot of stress, and struggling to do the things that you know might help your mental health and feeling like you don't have the time or the resources to do that. So let's start talking about mental health. And I know it feels heavy, it feels big, it feels complicated, but let's just simplify all of that. If you look at mental health, the actual definition of what mental health means, it's pretty simple. It's your thoughts, it's your feelings, the stuff that's going on inside your body. It's the actions that we take, or a lot of times the actions we don't take. It's about stress, the worries we have about the things that we have to do. It's about resilience, how we're able to meet that stress and how we're able to overcome those challenges. And it's about the important people in our life. It's about relationships. It's about family, friends, loved ones, all of that sort of stuff. And the reason we're talking about anxiety today is it's the most common mental health problem in the world. It's the most common problem. About 20% of people right now are struggling with some type of anxiety disorder. And about 30% of people will experience an anxiety disorder in their lifetime. That is a lot of people. 20% right now are struggling with this. And if you're like me, you've probably been experiencing more anxiety in your life. This is a graph of rates of anxiety since 2008 all the way to 2018. And it's separated by different age groups. And what you can see is among everyone except for 50 and plus, during this time period, anxiety has been going up. I'm really concerned about that top line, which is Gen Z. But you see, anxiety rates have been going up. And this was before the pandemic. And if you look at data after the pandemic, COVID has triggered a 25% increase in both anxiety and depression worldwide. So clearly, there is a mental health crisis in front of us. Clearly, many of us are struggling, and we don't know what to do. Mental health feels heavy, it feels big, it feels complicated. What can I possibly do, Dr. Ali? How can I move forward? What are some simple things we can do? I've come to believe that this idea of everyday courage is our way through all of these problems and these challenges that we're facing right now. And what I mean by everyday courage is just three simple things. It's about giving words to the emotions you experience, having the courage to look inside, to reflect and understand what's going on inside here. It's about embracing the risk of living, and it's about being present with others. So let's talk about those things, and let's talk about this first thing, giving words to emotions. So when I was a kid, I spent a lot of time playing video games, I rode my bike a lot, I climbed trees, and at home I was pretty chatty, but at school, I was completely silent. I was terrified. I wouldn't speak to people. And when I was in kindergarten, they put me in ESL because they thought I didn't know how to speak English. The thing was, I was just not speaking up. I was frozen anytime I had to speak. I was frozen anytime someone I didn't know came up to me. Other friends, other people would help me out and kind of speak for me. They kept me in ESL until they realized I didn't know how to speak English, because they noticed that I was picking up on one of the teachers making fun of one of the kids in ESL. And they're like, let's get Ali out of ESL. Probably not a good idea for him to be there. And I thought I was just a weird, strange person. And I believed that until I was getting my PhD studying anxiety disorders, because I was going to run this social anxiety group. And I came across this word, selective mutism. And at first I was like, that sounds like an X-Men superpower. What is that? That sounds pretty cool. And I read it's some kids in certain situations, they go mute. They don't talk. And it's a form of anxiety. We often think about fight or flight when it comes to anxiety, but there's also a freeze response. It's not doing anything. In some situations, freezing can be good. It stops danger from escalating. But I was freezing in situations I didn't need to. Everything changed in that moment. I was no longer a weird kid, but I was someone who struggled with anxiety. I now had the words to understand this experience that I had gone through. And I understood then that my selective mutism evolved into social anxiety, toss in some depression there in middle school, because middle school is terrible. And that was the kind of person I was. And I also now had a way out of it. Now I knew what to do. I started to understand what anxiety does, how it activates your body to prepare for threats. I started to understand that anxiety, it focuses your thinking on a specific danger and it escalates that sense of danger. It prepares you to face it or to run away or freeze in response to it. It makes it very hard to deal with stressors that are coming in front of you. Resilience was something I did not know how to do with anxiety. And the other thing that happened to me with anxiety is that it imprisoned me. It kept me from talking to people. It kept me from sharing what was going on inside me, because I thought I was weird and strange. Had no idea I had something that I shared with 20% of the people worldwide. This was the this is me moment for me when I was reading in that textbook and I understood what selective mutism was. Now, it shouldn't take getting a PhD in psychology to figure out what's going on with you. And fortunately, the world has changed. It has become a lot easier to find your own "this is me" moment. There are a lot of ways to do this. You can start by tracking your thoughts, your feelings, your actions for a week and try to see what patterns are emerging over there. You can do mood induction experiments. Something I've done with a lot of patients of mine is we watch the first 10 minutes of Up because it makes you feel like every feeling. It's intense. There's a lot there. And you can kind of track and monitor what's going on for you and what emotions are easier for you to deal with, what emotions are harder for you to deal with. You can do art. Something I did with a lot of kids I worked with is we would draw a person. We would draw what happens inside of you when you feel these things. What is it outside that might trigger these feelings? And some thought bubbles. What are the thoughts that are popping up in your head? You can find online communities. This is the big transformation that's happened in my career, is there are so many communities around the world now online dedicated to these different topics. And my favorite way of finding the "this is me" moment is representation in TV, on YouTube, in film, in podcasts. There are so many ways to hear other people's stories and figure out that, hey, that's something I'm going through myself. Embrace the risk of living. Now, I was quite happy hanging out with my brother. We would do so many different things together. He was 10 years older than me, so I always felt like he was letting me hang out and do all this cool stuff that I was not old enough to do, like watch rated R movies and hang out with his friends and just feel like I was doing all this cool stuff. And then I lost him. I lost him over 10 years ago. He died by suicide, and he had, for a very long time, undiagnosed bipolar disorder, and it ended up taking his life. And when he died in 2008, it completely shattered the way my mind worked. I could not be in the same situations and be present in those moments anymore. Anytime someone else would bring up a sibling, family, I had to get out of that situation. I felt this panic growing inside of me. Anytime someone brought up suicide, even casually as a joke, I would panic. I would want to get out there. And I would pretend now when I met new people that I was an only child, just because I didn't want to go there. I couldn't handle it. I had to completely rebuild my way of dealing with my thoughts, my emotions, my way of acting around others. And this took 5 years. It was about 5 years until I was able to get to a place where I could start talking about the experience I went through. It took 5 years until I could get to a place where I could be in these moments again around other people. What I've learned through that experience and learned through working with other people who have also experienced a traumatic loss, complicated grief, a lot of these things that we've been going through, is coping is about whatever helps you to be in a situation and to be flexible in those situations. There's a lot of dialogue online about the right coping tool, or there's all these TikToks where people are sort of judging they're reacting to other people's coping skills and saying like, oh, you shouldn't use laughter, that's not good, or don't use that, you're avoiding. No. Whatever helps you to be in the situations you need to be in and to be flexible in those situations, that is a coping skill. For me, not talking about my brother, that was effective coping. It helped me get through the day. Later on, I was able to handle more. Your coping is going to change with time. What is helping you to be in the situations you want to be in right now? That is a coping skill. One of the ones that helped me the most was 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, about grounding. What can help you to be in these moments that you want to be in? What can I look at in the environment? What are 5 things I can look in the environment that helps me be plugged in this situation? What are things I can touch? I often like touching the texture of the clothes I'm wearing on stage because it helps me to feel a little bit more present, or feeling the weight of the stage, like gravity pulling against me, helps me to be present. Listening to 3 different sounds, like the air conditioning, helps me to be present in this room. Noticing 2 different smells in the environment, like all the lotion I put on my hand. I love lavender, it always helps me be centered. And then noticing the taste in your mouth, one of my favorite coping skills. When there are, this is a weird photo, yes, I know. It's a YouTube thumbnail. I need the clicks. This is the dive reflex. When you're in those states of really high panic, you have to change your body chemistry. That is the only thing that's going to get you out of that situation. The dive reflex is this super cool skill. You should watch my YouTube video on it. Basically, you can fool your body into thinking you're diving into the ocean. It triggers a relaxation response. All you need to do is put your face, this area, this sort of ski mask area, in water, hold it for about 15, 30 seconds. You'll start to feel your body calm down. Don't do it if you have a heart condition. Talk to your doctor first. But anything that quickly changes your body chemistry, opening your freezer, sticking your head in it for just a moment, some intense exercise, breathing skills, all of those kind of things are going to quickly change your body chemistry, quickly bring you out of that panic mode. Narrative is really important if you've gone through a loss, if you've gone through change, as many of us have coming out of the pandemic. This was something that was incredibly helpful for me dealing with my loss. And this was all about when we go through these difficult moments, our psychological immune system gets stuck. We get stuck in those moments. We keep thinking about them. We ruminate about them. We churn around them. We churn those thoughts over and over again. And we can get unstuck through writing. All you need to do is spend about 20 minutes for 4 days in a row writing about the impact that a difficult experience has had on your life. And research has shown that is enough for a lot of people to rethink and move past and get a bit more of a realistic understanding of what's happened to them. The other thing that helped me coming out of those 5 years was something called opposite action. And this is a skill where you understand the emotion you're going through. Does it fit the facts of the situation you're in? And does it help you to act on that emotion? For me, being around other people when they talk about brothers, siblings, all of that was so triggering. And I felt so anxious. I was so afraid they were going to bring up a question like, what about you? Do you have any siblings? And I wanted to avoid and run away. That anxiety, once I got to a place where I could cope, didn't really fit with the situation anymore. I could handle these conversations. So opposite action for me became wanting to move towards the anxiety, wanting to move towards the fears. And the message here is wherever you are in your journey, wherever you are in your coping, that's okay. Don't let anyone judge your coping, what's helping you to get through the day. I want to talk about one more thing, which is being present with others. There's a picture of me and my son from almost a year ago. It's just a few days shy of a year ago, is this picture. I was so looking forward to him being born. This is my second child. And I really loved the experience of becoming a dad with my daughter. She was born in 2017. And I loved everything about that. But my son being born was not the best experience for me. Those first 2 months after my son was born, I really felt nothing towards him. It was such a scary and alien feeling for me because I immediately felt so close to my daughter. And none of that was happening with my son. And I felt an intense sense of anger that my wife and I didn't have enough support, anger that it was so much harder with 2 kids, anger at how sleep deprived I was and I still had to show up and parent my older child. It was not the experience I thought, and I was going through a lot. I didn't realize it at the time, but I was going through a lot of postpartum depression. We went on this vacation July 4th of last year, and I was just so terrible to be around. And my daughter asked my wife, when is Daddy going to stop being mad at everything? And that's when I knew something was wrong. And everything in my head was going to, why isn't anyone helping me? Why aren't more people showing up? Why are we so alone in this struggle? That was my brain. But my brain was also saying, don't ask anyone for help. Don't share your struggle. Don't tell anyone how difficult this is. You get through it yourself. Also my brain. Stupid brain. One of my friends, in this wonderful moment with my son, realized that something was wrong, that my texts were a little off. And he just invited himself over and his wife over. And they held my son. My son was not happy about it. But it perfectly captures how I also was feeling in the moment. I was like, I get you, kid. I so get you. And he knew I needed a break from all of this. And he knew I needed more than what a lot of my friends and family were actually doing. They were coming over, they were doing dishes, bringing food, doing laundry, doing all that sort of stuff. But none of that stuff was really helping me. And so he said, Ollie, I know what you need. And so here's what we did. He took me to go see Top Gun Maverick. This is us singing a Top Gun theme song on the drive over. And he knew I needed a break. I needed to get out of my head. I needed to get out of my body for a bit. And this is one way that he and I always grew up coping together. When we went through tough situations, we'd go clear our heads, do something fun together, and then I would be in a place where I could sort of talk about what's happened. This is the core skill we all need right now. Shelley Taylor, a psychologist, talks about this idea of social support. Whereas other animals are armed with weapons such as sharp teeth or claws and defensive resources such as thick skin and speed, primate species depend critically on group living for survival. Feeling cared for by others, caring for other people, this is the essential skill we all need right now. And I was so shocked at how difficult this was. Why was it so hard for a psychologist to ask his best friends for help? I didn't ask for help. My friend showed up and helped me. Why was it so hard for me to ask for help? And why is it so hard? Why are people so reluctant to help out? Research has been done on this, and it turns out that we massively underestimate how helpful we're going to be. And right over there, if you look at the first column, people think things are going to be so awkward when you offer to help. And it isn't awkward when you ask people who get help. And we critically underestimate how helpful we are going to be. And so we often don't help. I'm so obsessed with this idea that I'm doing what every good YouTube creator will do, is I'm going to make content on it. So I'm launching a new podcast today. It's called Inside Voices with Dr. Ali, where we explore why is it so hard for us to share our struggles and how can we help other people. And my first episode actually features my friend. We bring him back and we do a little fireside chat about exactly what happened. I want to leave you with my best tips on how you can help others. We're so trained to say, how are you? Don't say that. How are you today? How are you is such an overwhelming question when you're struggling. Make it specific. Is there anything I can do? You want to help, you don't know how to help, so we say that. And then what happens to everyone else? They're like, I don't know, maybe you could, I don't know, never mind, I'm okay. Right? When you're stressed, you're overwhelmed, you're struggling, asking this question creates more work for other people, as good as the intentions are. Instead, dinner's on me. Do you want Thai or Mexican? I'm Venmoing you $50. Get some dessert for yourself. I am sending you flowers. I am sending you memes from Star Trek because I know you're a big Trekkie and I want you to feel a little bit better and I miss you and I'm thinking about you. The most important thing is if you're worried about someone who's struggling, don't sit in silence. Ask them, I'm worried about you. Are you having thoughts about hurting yourself? Asking these kind of questions never makes a problem worse. It's never going to put the idea in someone's head. You might actually save a life by asking this question. This is everyday courage. And the last thing I want to leave you with is this idea. We often talk about mental health being about balance, about finding balance between home and work, balance between all of these things. It's not about balance. Mental health is all about connection. Connection to yourself, understanding your thoughts and emotions, connection to the present moment, finding a way to be grounded in the present moment, and connection to others. Thank you so much. I would love your feedback on the talk. That QR code is going to take you to a 3-question Google form where you can tell me what you liked, what you didn't like, and how I can improve. Thank you so much, folks.
All right, that was amazing.
Thank
you. All right, now we're going to sit down for a fireside chat. But before we dive in, just wow. I've seen so many of your talks. I know the first time we met was at the American Psychological Association conference where you were giving a talk and you self-disclosed some things there as well and talked about your experience being a YouTube psychologist, dove into your content. You've been raw and vulnerable in some of your content on YouTube as well. But today, just your vulnerability and your insight into your own process is just so powerful, and I know helps so many people. So I just want to say thank you.
Thank you, Jessica. Unfortunately or fortunately, as time goes on, I just get more mental health stories from my own life that I can share. And one of the things I discovered as someone creating content on YouTube, I can't share stories about my patients. I can share stories about myself. And it is always a question of what is the right story to share. And a lesson I learned many years ago is we share stories about our scars, not our wounds. We share stories that we can handle, we can tolerate, and while it might be difficult, we're not overwhelmed by it. So I try to live true to those thoughts as best as I can.
Well, you ended your talk talking about social support.
Yeah.
And that's actually where I want to dive in first, if that works for you.
Yeah.
All right, cool.
It's my favorite topic right now.
Good. It seems like both after kind of processing the death of your brother and also sort of as you struggled with your own social anxiety and your postpartum depression that you mentioned, you really needed a certain level of social support, but what you didn't necessarily need was to talk about the problem.
Yes.
That's kind of how your personality is.
Yes.
How did you come to learn that about yourself?
Yeah, for me, my primary source of social support is my wife. And we do a lot of talking and processing not every night. Usually every night we're watching like Severance or Indian Matchmaker or something like that. But we process stuff. But what really helps me is activities that get me out of my head, that get me some respite from my head. I am someone who is so often in my head and trying to get in the heads of other people that it is such an effective break for me when I'm doing something physical, gets my heart pumping, gets me engaged in something totally different. It's trial and error, Jessica, is how I got there. It's years of doing therapy, spending all day really with heavy stuff, and realizing the only way I can make that kind of work is getting a break that is completely different than being a practicing therapist.
So it took a long time for you to learn that about yourself.
Yeah, like 10 years.
Yeah. And I'm a huge proponent of therapy too. I'm also a clinical psychologist like Ali. And I'm curious, short of doing 10 years of therapy, do you have any tips or tricks for the audience and how they can learn for themselves what type of social support is best for them when they're having a hard time?
Yeah, so it's going to change from moment to moment. So social support includes informational support. Hey, I'm trying to make a career change. I want to get some advice from you. It also includes emotional support. I'm going through a hard time. Let's talk about it. It includes instrumental support. I need someone to come over and help me fold all my clothes, and I am overwhelmed. And the research seems to indicate that from people who are that you are less close to, informational support can be helpful if they're an expert in that area. Instrumental support can be helpful because sometimes you just need someone to come and do something. But for the emotional support, that might come best from close family, close friends, things like that. And what you need in the moment, you might not know. And I think this gets to having compassion for yourself that you're going to get it wrong. And when you are trying to show up for a friend, being willing to take that risk of, I might mess this up. Mm-hmm. You know, it could have come across as, hey, Ali, I think we need to go see Top Gun Maverick. Like, you are really depressed. That could have come across in a very invalidating way. Mm-hmm. Like, how dare you? I have this newborn. It didn't. It was like, yes, please, I need to get out of here. And his wife was nice enough to like hold our baby while we were out. It was a wonderful day. But it was a first day in so long that I was feeling pleasure and joy. That's what I needed. And I didn't know I needed that. It took a very compassionate friend who was worried about me and was willing to try. I didn't know what I needed, Jessica.
So digging into that a little more, because you said, it could have landed the wrong way. I think there's a lot of times we want to reach out, we want to help friends, we want to help others and give that social support. And we don't know the right words to say, or to your point, you said you don't want to be afraid of saying the wrong thing. But how do we make sure that our support is actually going to land well?
Yeah, I love saying, I don't know what to say. I am feeling X. I think that's a really good place to start. Because we don't know what to say, and then sometimes through fumbling through all of that, we say something that is offensive or say something that's incomplete. We try to play it safe. But if someone's going through a hard time, if they've lost someone, they experienced a setback, they lost a job, any number of things, they have COVID again for the third time, it's saying whatever you're feeling is good. And then think about what is something that you can do for this person based on what you know about them that is going to be supportive. My daughter got COVID a couple months ago, gave it to me, I gave it to my son, eventually my wife got it. And her coworkers sent us mochi donuts. And that was so nice. It felt so good. It didn't make our COVID go away? No. Did it make us feel supported and loved? Yes. Did those donuts taste good? Absolutely. So try.
Yeah.
Say what's on your mind, say what you're feeling, and then try something.
And I've never sent a mochi donut before, so now I'm putting that on my list.
I'll send you.
Folks are having a hard time.
I'll send you a box.
Okay, great. So there are some really obvious times in our lives where we need help. If something happens, like you said, you mentioned some of these: job loss, catching COVID, new baby, the death of a loved one, or the relationship loss. Yep. And it's very obvious both when we might want to ask for help or when we might reach out to offer help to others. But what about those more subtle times? Like feeling anxious to the point of feeling overwhelmed and not knowing how to start a conversation, or feeling so anxious you don't want to leave the house, so you're not taking care of your hygiene, or feeling so depressed you're not getting out of bed for days at a time. Just as some examples there.
This is so much fun for me, as I've known Jessica for years now, and this is what our conversations are like. We do these deep dives into mental health, and it makes me so happy. So thank you for being a good source of social support for me too. But I think that kind of speaks to these other moments as well. Social support is not just about times of crises. It's also one way in which we grow by spending time with one another, turning to one another and asking them, how's work going? How are things with your family? And staying in touch with someone about what their life looks like and being able to provide that emotional support, instrumental support. Oh, I'm thinking about a career change. Oh, I know someone who does that. Let me see if I can connect you. That is really, really helpful. And I think the reason my friend, Jamie, why he stepped in is because we're often in touch with each other. We're often sending each other silly memes about the stupid news that's happening. I don't mean stupid news like big news. I mean like things that are not important, like celebrity gossip and stuff like that. It's like one way that we cope through the day. Whenever we go to our text thread, we know there's going to be something silly and fun there. And I think he noticed, if you listen to my first episode of my podcast this week, he noticed that my messages changed. And that's what set a red flag, red alert in his head. Is we'd been in touch during these good times, and then I was acting differently, and then he knew it was time to step in and do something. So I don't know if I answered your question, but I know I answered a question.
Yeah, no, that was great. Well, okay. How about I put your topic today, everyday courage in the face of anxiety, back on you.
Yeah.
How are you doing everyday courage now?
That's a good question. You'd think I would have a prepared answer for that based on the topic of this talk. Everyday courage for me now is, in my professional life, it's about pivoting my content and my work and trying to, I've made these videos for so long that are about me talking to the camera, giving tips about things I've shared. And I don't want to do that anymore. I want to have a bigger impact. I want to share helpful psychoeducation for the masses, absolutely. But this experience I had last year so shook me. Like, why wasn't I asking for help? What if I was in an even worse state? What would happen then? That I want to do something bigger. So for me, it's about taking this big risk. But the everyday courage is really about, for me, gosh, Jessica, it's such a good question. It's so many things. It's my daughter asking me very tough questions about life and death, and her being at the stage where she's thinking about mortality all the time. And it's about me being able to sit with those feelings and say, sweetie, I don't know. I don't know what happens after we die. Here's what I believe. What do you think? It's about me sitting with the emotions of my son being a completely different person than who my daughter was at that age, and trying to figure that out. It's about me showing up for my wife when she's thinking about a lot of stress at work, and how can I be supportive to her and all of that. It's a lot of it is in the family life, which I guess it's not too surprising because I have two young ones at home.
No, I hear you. I've got a lot at home myself. You mentioned, though, the theme I'm hearing across all of it is actually being present.
Yes.
Being present and tapping into the now, what's in front of you at any given time. And I just very much appreciate that. And that came out in your talk as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't really mention this, but spending the first part of my career as a practicing psychologist in the anxiety of New York City, what I've fundamentally come to believe is the bravest people in the world are those who have problems with anxiety, those who struggle with anxiety, those who have anxiety disorders. It takes courage to get up out of bed, walk out the door when you have panic attacks and agoraphobia. It takes courage to have a conversation with other people when you have social anxiety, and every interaction feels like the worst social situation you could be in. It takes courage when OCD is running its algorithm in your head over and over again, making you wonder, did I do this right? Did I do this right? Is something bad going to happen? And you moving forward with sending that email, with leaving the house, with not knowing if you left the stove on or not. It takes a massive amount of courage to do these everyday things. But the thing is, Jessica, we all do that. I had to embrace the risk of driving here. I live in the East Bay. I had to cross the bridge. Is there going to be traffic? Am I going to get in an accident? There's inherent risk in being a human being. And what I try to do is help people to embrace that risk of living, of being present. Because everything we want to do is on the other side of that anxiety, is on that other side of risk. And it is about that connection to each other.
All right, well, thank you, Dr. Ali, and thank you to everybody who showed up in person and on live stream, and that's a wrap.
Thanks.